Hi, I'm Daryl Urbanski, and welcome to the Best Business Podcast. My mission is to help create 200 new multi-millionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. In my interviews, you'll hear from self-made millionaires, seven-figure business owners, authors, and world-class experts sharing how they did it so you can too without experiencing the same obstacles they did. When your life and your business grow as a result of what you're about to discover, please call me and tell me about it. The number to leave a voicemail is 1-888-844-GROW. That's 1-888-844-4769. Long distance charges may apply. Dial now to call me, connect, share your personal story of how my interviews have helped, or share your current challenges and frustrations so I can connect you with an appropriate course, coach, or help you if you connect. Now, if you like this interview, please share it with a friend you think will benefit. They'll appreciate it, and I will as well. You can also connect with me on social media. Look for Daryl Urbanski, D-A-R-Y-L, Urban Ski, U-R-B-A-N-S-K-I, and add me so we can be friends. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy what I've prepared for you right here, right now. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always, and today we are joined by Dr. Buck Parker. And Dr. Parker is an emergency and trauma surgeon in Salt Lake City, Utah. He started an e-commerce business during his residency in 2007. Since then, he's built a YouTube and Instagram account with over 200,000 followers and subscribers, and he helps high school and college students learn how to study to stay focused and motivated for the long term. His flagship study course has had over 2,000 students enrolled in it, and today we are talking with him to discuss not only how we can stay better focused and learn faster, but also to learn some of the trends and history he's been through all these years online. So, Dr. Parker, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. I've just had my morning walk. We have a bit of a time zone difference. The time of this recording, I'm in Vietnam. Nice morning walk, morning routine. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. But I want to know, before you got into becoming a doctor, how did this come about? Do you have other entrepreneurs in the family? Was that where you thought maybe I get something online going? How did you end up building a following online and a course and all that? Is that something kind of you were influenced into or stumbled upon?
Yeah, my parents were business owners, owned a restaurant and motel. My grandfather built his own business. So I guess those kind of things had some influence on me, just that I wanted to build my own business. And I was going to school, but I was thinking, like, what is this, how can I do my own business? How can I kind of like take control of my destiny kind of thing instead of just, working for the man type of thing. And so I had always been thinking about that since probably 16, 17. But I took the kind of safer route, like, institution, undergrad, med school, all that stuff. But it was always in the back of my mind. And then in 2006, like mid-2006, I started in a research year in residency. So I did 2 years residency, and then that was my research year. And I had all of a sudden a bunch of time, and I started researching, online businesses and e-commerce stores and things like that. And so that's kind of where that started. I just searched around here and there, but I really just started that in 2006, mid-2006, really starting to research and get serious about maybe building my own business.
And do you remember what the landscape was like back then? I mean, because I think you've been online longer than I have by maybe a year or two or so. And do you remember what the landscape was like? I mean, I know in the early days, certain things were way easier, way different than they are now. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, what was your first experience? Whet your palate and made you want more?
That's interesting. I don't know where I found them, but I just found these guys like selling ebooks, and it was like some of them were about cars and others were about training your dog and stuff like that. And I was like, hey, I can make an ebook. And so then I think I got kind of sucked into probably their, sales funnel. And I don't know where I found the people teaching how to do that. And I did find this one company. It was called Stompernet, and it was basically two guys. Yeah, it was two guys that one guy had like a wedding store or wedding favor store, and another guy was selling like swords and medieval stuff online, and they were doing really well. And then they just taught like how they did that, and so that's kind of where I started learning most of it. But as far as the landscape, like, it was pretty primitive. I think Google AdWords were maybe a year or two old, maybe a little bit more, but not a lot of people were using them how they should have been using them. I mean, I was, when I figured that stuff out and I started using Google AdWords myself, I was paying 10 cents a click.
Yeah.
And, a lot of my customers or a lot of people coming to my site were going through that ad and then were already sold on my product. And so they would buy it. So it was very, very cheap. Like I was paying a couple dollars for a customer and profit like $40. So
it was insane. That's awesome. That's so awesome. Yeah, I remember those days. And back in those days, too, at Google, you got to number one on Google with your ad by paying more and bidding more. There was no, Google hadn't come out with the algorithm yet that, that based on quality and what you bid, you'll go to the top. So if you have a great performing ad, even if you underbid, you still might show up. It was just the Wild West back then. A lot of people didn't know, a lot of people knew the potential or saw potential, but a lot of people didn't quite know where things were going, and it was this thing. And I remember I helped this company do a couple $1 million online. This is later than when you were first, 2006, 2007, of course. But I remember the CEO they brought in from Silicon Valley, he kind of totally disregarded this online thing. What are you doing? You need to get on the phone. What are you doing? We need to build our sales team. We need to train up reps and a manager. And then we did 1.6 million through online sales without any staff whatsoever. And then I got his attention. But
yeah,
that's speaking to people just didn't think it was possible. They didn't understand what the power of what they were working with at the time. So
right.
So what happened next? So all right, it's 2006, 2007. Is that where you started off with? Was selling ebooks with Google AdWords? Is that kind of how you got going? Was that?
Yeah, I actually built the website first, and so I spent about 6 months, maybe a little bit more, learning, researching, and then building the site. And I opened in April of 2007. And I had been doing my own SEO, kind of writing articles and posting them on websites and trying to do all this stuff and getting my own backlinks and things like that. And when I opened with just AdWords, and I did $30,000 or $40,000 the first month, and I was like, holy crap, this stuff works. And the company I was an affiliate for called me and were like, what are you doing? Nobody else is, doing this stuff. And then my SEO started to kick in a couple of months later, and it just kept going on top of that. And then I realized that I was getting a ton of people to come to the site, but they weren't buying right away. And so I was like, okay, well, I started researching the whole, email marketing stuff, and I wrote an ebook about the products, or about my experience with the products, and then kind of also broke that ebook up into they could opt in to get the ebook or get
blog articles,
a bunch of emails.
Oh,
yeah,
got it. Okay.
That so kind of a nurture campaign type of thing. And so I started doing that, and that was amazing because people were responding to these marketing emails this is amazing content. Not they didn't use content, but this is amazing. This is changing my life. I'm using your tips, and this is so great. Thank you so much. And then I liked it so much, I got your products. And so I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is cool. This is all working. So anyway, 2007, I think July comes around, and I had to go back into my residency. So then I started my third year. I actually, I had a friend help me ship with shipping and all that stuff. And I ended up getting a warehouse to drop ship for me. The company didn't have drop shipping set up, so I was actually paying shipping twice. I was shipping to my warehouse, and then they were drop shipping, and I was paying for shipping, and I was still making money because of the cheap advertising. So
right.
I went back into residency, and then I had it was tough to manage both, and so I actually hired my mom for a little bit to do customer service, and then ended up hiring somebody else a little bit later, and then about a year or a year and a half after that, a lot of people that were selling that product realized how powerful it was, how in demand it was. And so they started spending a lot of money on advertising and marketing and stuff like that for their own websites. And so that's when I sort of I wasn't I didn't continue the SEO because I was like number 2 for their main product on Google for a while, and that just crushed it. And then a lot of people figured that out. They started spending more money than I was to do their marketing and stuff, and so I kind of got pushed off the first page. And after that, it's only AdWords, and then that environment started to change a little bit, and it wasn't as profitable and things, and so kind of drifted out of that. Just still in residency, so
right.
The site's still up, but it doesn't do any revenue. I'm still thinking about bringing it back.
This was for an affiliate product. This wasn't your own product at the time.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. So then what happened? You decided to create some of your own products then, or?
Yeah. So then actually, I tried to, when I finished residency in 2010, I tried to go back to the same company and sell some their other products. But meanwhile, I think the whole everything changed. Like the environment changed online, and that company changed a lot, and their products were different, and there was a lot more people doing the same thing I was, and so it was really tough. And so I said, okay, well, let me maybe make my own product. I actually did like a weight loss course, like just me talking about science and some kind of motivation and things like that. And I started to market that like in 2013, and I was getting a really good response with the ads, and I did like a video sequence, like a free video sequence, almost like a nurture campaign type of thing, and that was doing really well, but I couldn't convert them to sales, and I'm not sure, I don't know what I was doing at that time, but then I got sidetracked and changed some things. And then in 2015 I actually got on a TV show with Bear Grylls, and I was there. I did a survival show. I was on an island for a month with no food or water with a bunch of other guys.
What?
And then
Survivor?
after that, when it wasn't Survivor, it was called The Island, and it was kind of almost like a knockoff of Survivor, but a little bit different.
Okay.
But when that show started to play around the world, I would get these kids from India and Africa and the United States too, but everywhere around the world, the Philippines, saying, hey, I saw you on the show. I want to be a doctor. What's it like? How did you do that? What did you do? How much did you study? All these things. So then I took all that information in and said, okay, well, maybe I should start doing YouTube or Instagram or social media, whatever. I tried some Facebook for a while. Couldn't really get any traction. Then I started doing I told myself, okay, I'm going to do just very consistent posts, 3 to 4 times a week with Instagram. Very raw stuff, exactly what happened to me, whether it's embarrassing or sad or, it was awesome, just whatever was authentic. So I started doing that. That really got traction, and then I translated that over to YouTube and just started answering those questions those kids were asking me. And so that's what got me traction, and I just decided to do that. I said, okay, I'm going to give myself 1 year, very consistent, and see where I'm at. And about 9 months in, I had about 100,000 followers on Instagram, like 50,000 on YouTube, and decided, hey, maybe I can monetize this. So that's when I built another, like a video course, but it was just teaching high school and college students how to study, mostly to be, if you want to go into medicine, how are you going to have to study? You're probably going to have to study 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 6-7 days a week for a long time. A lot of people can't do that or don't want to do it, or they don't know how to do that. That's what I did. So I built a program on that, and then I launched that. In about 2 weeks, we did like 1,200 members in that. And then that was last year, 2018, right? Yeah, 2018. So it's a little bit over a year old.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. So now, having shared this story, looking back, do you feel you figured out some things and milestones? Because you're doing paid ads in the beginning, but then those dropped off. Do you feel you went through some phases that you would call? Could you identify phases and things that you had to learn and develop as skill sets on your journey?
Yeah, for sure. I think at the beginning I was doing everything. I was trying to design the website. I was trying to I was writing articles, I was creating my own backlinks, I was doing my own ads. In the meantime, I was, basically trying to get information to teach me how to do this. So that was really difficult, but it also, I think, that phase helped me understand how all these things go together. And now I can hire somebody to do that. And I know if they're doing a good job or not a good job, and if they're charging it too much or whatever. So even though it's like super slow to do all that stuff, I think it's good. I don't know, maybe I did it for too long. Probably could have hired people earlier in the game. I did hire somebody to do like most of the website. It was actually a Yahoo store. I don't know if you ever built or worked with a Yahoo store, but it was kind of torture. But anyway, so I had to hire somebody.
I did Yahoo groups for a nonprofit, Invisible Children, but never a store.
So yeah, that was definitely the first phase, and then the second, I think, probably is learning that, you know, you can't be the expert at everything. And you shouldn't be the expert at everything, and you need to hire people that are better. And once you start hiring people, that most people are better than you because they are an expert in their field, and they produce things, you know, way faster and way cheaper than what you could do. Because, you know, if you think about yourself, what is the dollar value you give yourself for an hour? And if I have to learn like some program in order to make, you know, a logo, like that's going to take me 4 days to learn the program. Then I come up with a logo that's terrible when somebody else can do it, and, you know, less than that, less time, make it way better. It's more professional, all that stuff.
Yeah. If you want to make $100 an hour, don't do $10 an hour work.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to learn that one, and that was really important to get a team, to realize I need a team, and I can't just do all this stuff by myself, because I think a lot of people set out on making their own business, and then they're the only person. They're like, oh, I'm going to save all this money. I don't want to pay anybody. But that's like the worst way to do it, you know? Yeah, you're not going to, I mean, you can make a few dollars here and there, but it's never going to be very successful. It's not going to be it's probably not going to be any fun, because you're going to be working nonstop, and you're going to feel like
all the pressure's on your shoulders, and
and then the stuff is like not even any good, and you can't focus on the things that you're really good, that you are the expert at, you know. That was the one. And then I think the third phase kind of thing is realizing that you can't, not only can you not do that stuff alone, but you also can't really go big without partners, without strategic partners. And I think that helps a lot too. And then honestly, I've kind of learned this over the last couple of years, but I just had it reiterated to me today by somebody else. I was just watching a video, and they're like, you know, you can't really be that successful without money. So like, you know, once you get things going and they're profitable, then you need to, in order to really do well, you need capital. And I think that's what the big boys do. And most entrepreneurs are not really big boys, and they just kind of go, I'm gonna do this stuff by myself. But nobody that ever does anything really, really significant does it by themselves.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree that getting rich is a team sport. And I definitely agree that there's kind of always, any project, any endeavor, there's time, knowledge, and money that's usually required. And it's very rare you have all three. So you need to seek someone else. I don't know about the money thing, though. I mean, I guess, because when you said that, I was like, I guess Elon took Tesla public because he needed the funds. Not because, you know, not because he wanted to, but because he needed it to go bigger. I have mixed feelings about that personally, just because I have a bunch of friends in the Silicon Valley of the North, they call it, which is the Ottawa area. Shopify is based out of there. All these other big companies are based out of this area, the Glebe in Ottawa. And anyways, one of them, he sold his company. I think he said he sold it for something like $500 million. But he said he walked away with less in his own pocket than if he didn't take venture capital. And it only grew like 1/15 the size it grew. I remember he was really kind of raw, but because it was his life passion. He'd spent, 15 something plus years, but it was because he took outside money. It grew a lot bigger, and he said it was great for his ego. But at the end of the day, if he had just kept it all to himself, it's a tough thing because it's all hindsight. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I think you have to be really careful with that, because I know of people personally that are doing, high volume, like $1 million in sales a month, and they were able to get there because they had strategic partners. Like I know one guy, he took someone's offline business and took it online. He partnered with them, and said, hey, you've had this business in your family for a couple generations. Let me do an online version. They partnered with him. And then he got a bunch of investors, and he went from like 0 to $1 million a month super fast. But I know that because of the VC capital, they're having issues where, and I have another friend that's doing that right now. They just had their first, December last year, they hit $1 million in a single month, and they finished the year out just under 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're having some sort of issue where it's about profitability now. It's like, okay, well, we've got all this money, we got things up and running, but now it's like, how do we really make profit off this now? Because we've got to pay all these people back,
Too many people, yeah.
And they lose control. I'm not saying don't do it. I haven't done it myself. I'm not an expert in this, disclaimer. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit because I think you're right. I think whenever there's a massive project, you do need lots of people, and you need I definitely think that needing to build a team, and maybe you do need some money. I just want to put that word of caution out there for people just before they think that getting funding is the holy grail itself. I think like for you.
No, I don't. Yeah. I don't want to say it's a holy grail for sure, but I just think that if you do, most of the time, if you want to go pretty big, I think you do need some kind of outside. Now, like I have not done that, and I am no expert in that whatsoever, but I just like it's repeated to me from a lot of other people that have done really well. They keep saying like that's kind of what takes you to the like next level. Now I do agree with you that there's a lot of people that will take your money if you give it to them, so if you have to be super careful for sure with that. So,
yeah, but I definitely think like money is an accelerator, and so if you have like this is a quote I got from a mentor a long time ago, and I think it's really valid that money solves all problems a lack of money creates. So, for example, if you're trained to be, you want to go to the Olympics and you don't have the best equipment, well, if you had money, you could have the best equipment. If you're trained to go to the Olympics and you don't have the best trainers, or you don't have a nutritionist, or you don't have somebody, because, right, money will fix that problem for you. Money will fix a lot of problems. It will. But it only solves problems a lack of money creates. Money can't fix everything. So that's why I think what's important, and at least in your story, for you, like you've really vetted this thing that you've been building forever, and now that you know the ins and outs, you've been in the market for so many years, you have all this reputation. It's kind of like the leverage spots, I think, now where money could be applied effectively. For a lot of people, they're like out the gate, they've got, they get referred, they're rubbing elbows, they just show up and they do great and present, and then they're in this business. It's a long ride. Like you're married to that money. You don't just get to make that, and then walk away and do what you want with the business. It's a catch-22, but I think that there's definitely value to be able to throw gasoline on a fire. But you have to make sure you got some sparks first. I think that's a really important. Really important. And just to be careful in how it's structured, because there's a lot of people that want to make money for just signing checks, and they're happy to have you work 24 hours a day to make that money for them. So, I think it's fantastic. So, okay. So in the beginning, you had to figure out kind of the landscape, all the skill sets required that enabled you to then more effectively hire and build a team of people doing those things because you've done the work yourself, and also helped you kind of learn to appreciate and value, their time. You have to pay someone, and it's money, and we all kind of hate spending money. We love making money and hate spending money, really, but it helped you value what people do for you more. And then now you said now you really understand the power of strategic partners, how one or two key partners can really fill in gaps that you're missing, and all of a sudden things go better. And then it sounds like the next level was, now that we've got the team, now that we've got the business and the product and the marketing and all that, now we just need some gasoline for this fire. And that's where you're like, you want some funding. Does that sound accurate at all in terms of your progression?
Yeah, it's exactly.
So where would you apply these funds? If someone waved a magical wand and wanted to invest $1 million in your company right now, how would that best be applied, do you think?
Today, anybody can be Nike, right? Because basically what Nike did was take athletes, leverage their, their trust of the public to sell their shoes. Nike shoes, personally, I don't think they're any better than any other shoes, but now it's been so long, they have the best kind of reputation They have all the best athletes convincing us, influencing us to buy their shoes. And I think, right, this landscape, the best thing you could do with your money is have influencers promote your products or yourself or whatever it is. I think that's also a slippery slope because some people, influencers don't really know their value, and some people think it's way higher than it is, and some people think it's way lower than it is. And so it's tougher to nail down exactly what to do with them and how to do it. But I do think that when you do it right, it's pretty powerful.
Yes.
So I think that's probably where I would do that.
Yeah, I just did an interview last night. I can speak to this a little bit. I did an interview last night with a gentleman that opened up a chain of stores, and he was a famous snowboarder. And all the staff that he had at his stores, there was like a culture that they built, and it was all about this lifestyle of, you know, being able to work and make good money during the day, and then at night be able to go boarding and do, you know, live that lifestyle type thing. And everybody that who worked for him were all trying to make it as pro boarders and stuff. But what happened was that they had teams, and they would showed up to competitions, and they would win these competitions, and so their clothing line started to represent like a brand and and a type of people and a group of people. And it was almost like he built a team of influencers at his store because he was enabling people and understanding them, and he would sponsor his own his own staff to be their own athletes and stuff. And that's kind of like how that's gone. And even just like Paris Hilton and these other people, they became famous through being famous. They became famous through rubbing elbows. It became a popularity contest and a gossip contest. Who can be talked about the most and still hold their head up high? And not in the sense of like, I want people to talk bad about me, but who can walk that really fine line so that way everybody's talking about you, but it's nothing that, you're going to hate, it's going to destroy your life and career over. And it's almost like that. And then it's that growth. And then I remember once we were doing a project, it was for women over 35 who were very physically active. And we were trying to reach them through influencers on Instagram. And we had one influencer with a following of 20,000 followers. And it worked like gangbusters. It was like it was amazing. And then we rolled out to all these other influencers that had larger followings, and the quality dropped off a cliff. And we realized that one of them we targeted that we thought like their channel looked like it would appeal to a 40-year-old active female. But the vast majority of their followers were 18 to 24-year-old Indian boys, like out of India. That was like the 80%. They had like 1 million followers. And they were all 18-year-old Indian boys, and that's not our market. So when you do the influencer marketing, it's really important that you get that stuff lined up. Like I know exactly what you're saying. Some of them were like ridiculous, like I want $5,000 to do a single post on Instagram. But you're like, you have 1 million followers, but you get 10,000 likes on a post. Like, why is that worth $5? Like, they're just totally disconnected. And then you have the flip side where they want. Like, they don't know their worth, but then it's almost like they want more time. Like, okay, but can you send me some of the product? And that's not a bad thing, but can you send me some of the product? And what are your product? Like, it's almost like they take up too much time, and they want to be too involved. And it's like, it's great, but their following isn't big enough to warrant, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, I don't know if I'm articulating this clearly, but you kind of have those two sides, people with massive followings that want the world and whether it delivers or not. And then there's people that don't know.
Yeah.
And they're huge time vampires. But if you can find that sweet spot, I think that's super powerful.
There's a company right now called Figs. It's the scrubs company. They actually make pretty good scrubs. But they have, over the last 2 years I've watched them, and they have just absolutely destroyed the marketplace. And they are everywhere. Like every single medical influencer from, pre-medical students who have 5,000 followers to anybody 200,000, 1 million followers. They have everybody in their scrubs, and it is crazy. And I went to Los Angeles not too long ago. They've got, they were not a big company, and now they've got billboards like in Hollywood of all. They are everywhere. So but these kids like don't understand what their worth is, and so they're like, send me a pair of scrubs and I'll like post them, all like 50 times this year, and all these kids are doing. They're not getting any cash. They're just getting like
free
they're
product.
sending them pens and like like bullshit things like that.
Yeah.
And they're so happy to get it because they're just like young kids. They don't know the value of that right now, and so they destroyed it. Yeah,
it's huge potential. And with this tool like Instagram, especially right now, it's still the Wild West, because even on Facebook, if I reach out to someone, there's kind of like layers of protection. Meaning, like I actually had a podcast interview with another guy, and he messaged me because his internet, he just moved, his internet's out. But it went to a different folder in Facebook. Like it didn't come to my main inbox. So you like have to click like 3 times to get to this other messages folder. So you got like a normal folder for friends, family, and then a spam folder. LinkedIn, you have to be connected with someone to send them a message, right? There's that thing. But on Instagram, I could look up Bill Gates and send him a DM, and if he logs into his account, it's going to go to him. Right now, how many people does he have? How many people are messaging him, right? Like it could just be like a stock ticker of incoming messages. Some of these people just get so many damn notifications and messages. But the reality is that direct access is now there. Like it's super easy. And if you actually are willing to work a little bit, I mean, the walls have come down. I mean, pre-internet, you would have to get on a plane, you'd have to fly, you'd have to follow them around to whatever, like figure out their schedule and like probably buy people lunch that know who they are so you can figure out where to try to like run into them, and organize these chance meetings. Now you can just sit on your couch in your underwear, pick up your phone, send them a message and get Nicki Minaj or whoever to like do your, to do a shout out. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
You get what you negotiate.
It is nuts.
Yeah. And if you can corral a bunch of people on to promote your stuff, I think that can be incredibly powerful. You can go, I have a friend, they launched in the health space with diabetes, and they went from unknown to, I think they did something like $3 or $4 million in 18 months. And it was because they basically went around and they interviewed all the leading experts in the diabetes field, and they released this documentary series around it, and it was like they were just selling the documentary. The full their only product was get all the episodes, right? They kind of made one free a week, and you could watch it live. But then if you wanted them all, you had to pay for it. But then what they did is they back end sold all these experts' products to that list. And it was like so it's like they got the 10, 15, 20, 40 leaders of an industry to all promote a single thing, a single event. And they built a list out of that, and then everybody just kind of based on their participation was lined up afterwards to just have their stuff mentioned on the back end. And I was like overnight they went from nowhere to industry leaders, like leading in terms of list size, in terms of authority, and it was all through influencers. It was all through. Now it was kind of a different thing. It wasn't just messaging someone on LinkedIn or Instagram and sending them some sneakers and asking them for a shout out, but it's the same kind of concept. It goes to what you're saying about strategic partners.
Yeah.
And how it can be, maybe you don't need someone's money. Maybe you just need to give someone a % of sales that they help generate from their channel. And now you have cash, all the cash you need. It just depends what you need. But that's a really powerful one that you brought up. And I'm kind of glad you mentioned that, because that's accessible to anybody. Everybody that's listening to this call right now has people in their industry. They can make a list of 5, 10, 15, 20. And if you found a way to collaborate, even if you see them as your competitor, if you just like 2 people have liquor stores, but one decides to be more about whiskey, the other one decides to be more about scotch. Like there's small ways that you can differentiate and create your own culture, and now you can collaborate together. And that's really powerful, because I mean, if you had a competitor and they took 3 months, every time they got a lead, they took 3 months to turn that lead into a sale. And if after 3 months they couldn't make a sale from them, they started offering your stuff to that client, right? And you gave them a fee. Like everybody wins in that case. And so it's just a really powerful way to do. If you can weave a network of people like that, it can be incredibly powerful. So I'm going to get up the soapbox, but I think that's a fantastic point. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you feel you see people making trying to run online businesses now? Like when you have friends and people that ask you about it and like, hey, how are you doing this? And what are some of the repeat fundamentals that you see missing?
Yeah. I think the one who I mentioned at the beginning, or you mentioned, that it's like, don't pay somebody, what did you say? Don't do a $10 job if you're $100 an hour person,
Right.
I think that's a big one. Most entrepreneurs think they're going to get in there and then do everything themselves because they're going to, quote, save themselves a bunch of money. And you're actually losing money by doing that, right?
Yep.
And you're losing a lot of time too. I think that's the biggest thing. It takes so much longer to do stuff when you're doing it as opposed to like some people that are really good. And then I think that's the big one, and just the whole mindset of I'm going to do this on my own. I want to do this on my own. You know, I don't think anybody really, like I said, does anything really significant by themselves. I mean, it takes other people. You got to learn from other people. You have to make mistakes, but if you make a mistake and then you turn around and say, okay, well, I'm going to try this again, and you do the wrong thing again, like how many times are you going to do it wrong?
Yeah.
Right? Instead of just learning from somebody else.
Yep.
You know,
it's the idea. I always say, if you wanted to go to the Olympics for whatever, I always say like a martial art or something. Say you want to go to the Olympics for judo. Would you get there faster trying to figure it out on your own in your garage, or if you had 3 coaches that had all won gold medals at the Olympics in years past? Like, hands down, you would do better with the team. Even if you just had you alone in your garage, or you at a club with a bunch of people who are also all trying to get the Olympics. Like, it's just, isolation is so dangerous, and it's so bad. It's just not a good thing for anybody in business whatsoever. And it's scary because it's really easy to wake up one day and find out, oh, I've been isolated. I've just been kind of going through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
I thought of one more example that I wanted to mention, though, about the strategic partners and the power of influencers. Dre, Beats by Dre. He sold that to Apple for what, like $1 billion, I think it was?
Yeah.
That was built entirely off influencers. Like, the headphones were already around forever, right? Dre made a better set of headphones for sure, better quality. But there's a great documentary about it on Netflix, and it was Jimmy Irvine's his name. He worked for Interscope Labels, and he basically made it so anytime someone came through their office to shoot a music video or a photo shoot, that they were wearing those headphones. It was like non-negotiable. It's like, if you're going to be in this music video, you're going to wear these. And it just became the de facto thing where now sports athletes, all these people are wearing it, and it built up this huge thing. And I don't even know, I've never even worn them, but they sold them for $1 billion. And I imagine it's because there's so many people using Beats by Dre. They have some way to download music directly into them, or buy and sell, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know because I don't have a pair. But it's got to be something that made it worth $1 billion. And it's not just that people want. Yeah, you know, and I think that was all built through influencers. That's all that was. A great product that they got everybody who could hold people's attention to wear them. That was really it. They just got them they just gave them away pairs. Gave everybody pairs. And got all the influencers wearing them. So, really powerful stuff.
Amazing.
So, all right. You say the biggest thing is not building a team and is refusing to level up and focus on the higher level problems and delegate the lower level stuff. That's the biggest one. Are there any other ones that you think trip people up a lot?
I think trying to focus, I mean, it kind of goes along a little bit, but trying to focus on too many things. I can't remember who said this, but probably multiple people, but it's like, find the 1 to 3 things maximum that you do that's the value for your business, you know, that's like makes the revenue. If you're the person if you're the writer, you know, like you need to write, you shouldn't focus on coding your website, right? Because the value is in your writing. That's what you're selling. So that's, I think, the big one. It kind of goes with that a little bit, but some people don't know what the most valuable action is that they do. And I think that's, you know, obviously a problem too. So I would say that would probably be second.
Got it. So I had one of my mentors who say, delegate as much as you can so you're calling the shots, analyzing the stats, and focused on copywriting, which to him encompassed copywriting, also encompasses sales, which also encompasses marketing. So for anyone that doesn't know, copywriting is the skill of not just writing, but it's a skill of writing persuasive copy. It's the skill of writing to persuade people and convince them. So everything in marketing is built off of copy, because there's lots of images and stuff in marketing, but a picture doesn't quite sell. A picture can make you feel things, it can give an impression, but you still need words at some point. And what words? Too many words. There's like an urban legend that early shampoo company doubled their sales simply by adding the word repeat to all bottles. Lather, rinse, repeat. because people just started using more product. That's the idea of that knowing what to say can boost sales. And so the idea of copywriting comes, the reason why it's a powerful skill is because to write copy, you have to know who you're speaking to and you have to understand the situation better. It's like a clarity thing. It's like, you get what you inspect type thing. If you really inspect who your customer is and you really inspect why they're trying to buy, it's not about any fancy wizardry. It's about just accurate data and clear communication. And then communicating that effectively at scale as best you can. And so copywriting falls into a lot of things. It's about how to do a sales presentation, how to speak from stage, how to do a webinar, all that kind of stuff falls into that. But it's kind of like you're saying, get out of the weeds, delegate everything you can, focus on analyzing the stats that matter to you, and calling the shots, and then doing those 1 to 3 things you think are best. That's fantastic. Where do you think the future of all this stuff is going in terms of like online businesses and that? Like, where are we going to be in 5-10 years?
Well, I don't know about 5, but 10, I think there's definitely going to be a lot of AI and kind of, I guess it's like probably a wrong word, but sneaky marketing, like more sneaky than there, right now you click on an ad and that thing follows you for 30 days, But I think it'll be a little bit more, maybe not invasive, but if you're walking down the street, like checking your size and who you are and what you look like, and then is serving up ads like based on those kind of things. I think it's probably more personalized things. I think that's where it's gone already from, say if you got a letter in your mailbox, 30 years ago, it wasn't exactly as personalized as kind of the ads are now.
Right.
So I think that the marketing will be even more personalized. And every time, when you get, your marketing is very specific to a niche or a market and that individual, then the more profitable that is. And so I think that's probably, if I was Elon Musk, that's what I'd do. Create those things that are looking at people and, from the outside or even the inside and finding who exactly they are more specifically so you can serve up more specific advertisements probably.
Has your business experience affected you as a doctor?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, for sure. I probably look at things a lot differently. I look at patient experience, I think, a lot more than other physicians just because it's sort of like selling and the customer service and what happens and if they're happy or not happy and why they are and all that stuff. I really haven't kind of monetized it because I do emergency stuff, and so I haven't gone out there and said, hey, I have a YouTube channel, and so come to me for your surgeries or whatever. That might happen in the future. I'm thinking about that. We'll see. But, yeah, I think for sure some people don't like what I do, actually, which is kind of interesting. A lot of the older surgeons say, you shouldn't have a website. No doctor should have a website. You should just have patients come to you because you're a good doctor and you have word of mouth. I'm like, well,
not
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But there's some physicians don't like the YouTube channel, a little bit too raw for them. But I'm speaking to my market, right? My market is younger kids who are a little bit more loose. They want authenticity. And so I decided to kind of go that direction. So the older folks kind of don't get that. They just think I'm a profane jerk. But it's really more, I'm just trying to speak to that market.
No, I love that. And what do you feel are some of the habits that have helped you be successful, both as a doctor and as an online business owner?
I think just the daily routines in undergraduate and med school that I developed, like mostly learning for me has been, lifelong. I always liked learning. I like reading, so I'm interested in new information. And in med school, it was like, I was reading like literally 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day sometimes.
Mm.
And so I kind of still stick with that, constantly trying to learn, to improve. And I think that constant improvement and that for me, it's just like enjoyment doing that. And, I think that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you better love that, because it's a lot. It sometimes it can be overwhelming. And you're not going to love every minute of it for sure. But if you're not driven by something inside saying, yeah, let's go do whatever, let's, read about this to improve the business or the website or the customer service or whatever it is, then I think it's like impossible. I think nobody's really super successful at anything that they don't like. You just can't put the hours in. If somebody that loves, building cars, they're going to build cars until 3:00 in the morning, and you're going to be like, oh, it's 5:00, I'm checking out, kind of thing. So you just can't keep up with the hours. You can't match the same hours as somebody else. So.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you're right, because in business, once you figure out a problem, like you figured out a problem and started doing like 10, 20, 30 grand a month, but then a new problem came about. And then you solve that one. And then a new problem. Like, business is never ending problem solving. And so if you're not interested in constantly learning and constantly growing and constantly developing, if you don't like having to deal with problems, you won't like having a business, because your staff's problems become your problems, your partner's problems become your problems, right? Like, your customers' problems become your competitors' problems can become your problems. There's just a lot of problems that can go on. It's a much different existence than punch in, punch out, go home, sit down, watch Netflix.
Yeah.
It's a very different experience, where now you're engaged in this world that's constantly evolving and changing, and you have to adapt to it, and it's adapting to you, and you're making assumptions about where things are going, and sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong, and sometimes you learn something and it really pays off, and sometimes you learn something and it doesn't pay. You don't know when it's going to pay off. It's that kind of amorphous thing. But I think you're right. I think it's about moving in the direction of what you're passionate about, trying to help people, because that's the other thing that came out about your story. It was all about helping people. It was about building a team. So it was about identifying what are people, and this is where a lot of business owners tend to have their focus. It's dealing with the customers. It's knowing the customer, who the customers are, why they're buying, and it's helping get more of those. It's helping make sure customers are happy and helping make sure that more customers are coming to you every month. Because if you're not growing, you're stagnating, and that's a dangerous thing, because you're probably going to be declining. So it's about driving that growth, and a lot of that is marketing and sales and dealing with customers or building those relationships, those strategic partnerships like you mentioned. So I think this has been a fantastic jam-packed call. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you about?
No. Yeah, I mean, we covered all the main stuff for sure.
Yeah, I think so as well. This has been fantastic. If people really resonate with your message and just want to kind of follow your story better and check out what you're doing, what are some of the best ways for them to reach out?
Yeah, Instagram's probably the best one. It's just Dr. Buck Parker, Dr. BUCKPARKER. And then if you're, you want, mostly my YouTube is kind of productivity tip geared at students, but they also work in other aspects of their lives. So
right,
and that's Buck Parker MD.
Go check that out on Instagram, or you can go check out Dr. Buck Parker. Well, I guess they're both on Instagram. So you said, is it one's on YouTube, one's on Instagram? Sorry.
Yeah, YouTube. Just search my name, Buck Parker. You'll find me.
There you go. Okay, so look for Buck Parker on YouTube or Buck Parker MD on Instagram. Definitely give this a listen to again if you didn't take notes. I think there was a lot of value in here through his personal stories and experiences, and just some notes. Take a note of what you need to do, what you need to delegate. Set some goals for the next week and 30 days. Really try to get some value out of this call, because I really think there was some here. And I appreciate you coming and sharing, because I've been around for a long time and you've been around for even longer, and I think it really helps some of these people that are coming in that are really new and they're just seeing it for what it is today. They don't realize how the things have evolved over time on the internet. And so I really appreciate you sharing your story and insights, because today there's people that might be making a ton of money as a YouTuber, but they don't know that, just like you in AdWords, like, this is working like gangbusters, tomorrow it might not be there. And so you really kind of have to be prepared for the future and put out all the root structures that you can. So I think it was a great story. I appreciate you. I know
Cool.
you've been busy. Thank you so much for coming and sharing, and hopefully we can do a follow-up in a few months and see how things are going.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me.
You've reached the end of our interview. Now, first, let me thank you for listening. I appreciate and respect you more than you'll ever know. And now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. First, what 3 lessons did you just learn? What 3 aha moments just jumped out at you? Second, what can you implement for yourself and your business in the next 24 hours? Third, what can you give to someone else to help you with, or give them to just do it for you? Whatever it is, remember taking action is the secret sauce to results. Now, if you think this interview would be helpful for a friend, please give them a link to it. It'll help them and it'll help me too. I'd also like to invite you to help me find out more about the challenges you're facing, your dreams, your goals, and how I can help you overcome what's holding you back. We both do better when we know better, and your success is my success. So please reach out and interact. You can visit our website, bestbusinesscoach.ca for Canada or California, where I'm from and where I'm living. You're welcome to also try out one of our paid programs. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and pretty much every other social media channel you can think of. You should also subscribe to the podcast, and if you're enjoying them, please leave us a nice review. It really helps. That's all for now. Once again, thank you. Take care of yourself, and remember, the world needs the best business you can build. And I believe in you.